migrating to Microsoft data platforms. It's kind of those survey questions. The last one was really just much for my enjoyment as hopefully yours. I am glad to see that no one said they trusted Google, because we would have different conversation later with you. So let's, I just wanted to give you a little background. I'm principal consultant lead here at Pragmatic Works. My goal is, or my job and role is to do a lot of technical pre-sales and solution architecture work. So we're going to take a moment today as we get ready for the holidays and look through some of the stuff that we have done around migrating to the Microsoft data platform. As a part of this, just a quick review of those surveys. It's nice to see that there's a lot more focus around functionality, compliance, those type of things than there is around cost. So that's going to be kind of in line with what we're going to talk about today, what's important when you're considering migrating. Let's get kicked off here. Let's see. There we go. So why Microsoft? So I chose two of the Gartner charts here that are related directly to the relational engine. And I'm bringing that up because if I throw the third most common one we put up here, which is around BI, actual business intelligence and analytics, Microsoft's just way out there in front of everybody else when it comes to that. So we're looking here, when you're looking at what you're going to do to migrate, there's a lot of reasons to consider why you'd migrate, but one of the first questions you have to ask is, why would I choose Microsoft? Well, Microsoft has been boosted to the top corner on leadership for the operational database management systems, which is a dramatic move for them. A lot of that is driven by some of the things we'll talk about in the next slide about some of the features that Microsoft has made available, and it has very little to do with cost. And that's one of the things we'll hold off to talk about as a reason to move. As far as on the data management solutions for analytics, and that one you can see they're right up there with, once again, with the likes of Oracle and Teradata. And of course, AWS, SAP, IBM, all the usual suspects are the leaders on both of these platforms. So as we start to look at it, from our perspective, what we're seeing in the marketplace and why people consider moving off platforms, three of the most common platforms to move off of at the moment, when talking about database migrations, we talk about moving off of Sybase, a system that has greatly diminished in its ability to keep up to date and work with to work in a modern environment. Most people haven't upgraded it. This is a very common solution inside of financial services, for instance. We work with customers on looking at what it takes to move their Sybase environments. A lot of that's driven by things like compliance, something one of the big concerns in considering new solutions. So it becomes a big deal. Oracle, Oracle's Oracle. A lot of you have Oracle in-house. That's, because that's one of the primary database solutions out there. Problem with Oracle is they're very aggressive, and they're getting more aggressive on their licensing, often called predatory by a number of folks, and how they're trying to do it. And even then, trying to get you to force you into the cloud, because they need to get you in the cloud and get you locked in as much as possible. So these are pretty typical scenarios around both of those platforms. Teradata is another one that we're seeing more activity around, about the opportunity to look at moving off of from the data management solution space. So what do you target after that? Teradata is an appliance for all practical purposes, and a very strong appliance. None of the systems we're talking about are absolutely weak. You have to make a decision to move. And so when you're looking at it and you're thinking about what Microsoft comes to offer, Microsoft's got a lot of recognition in the marketplace. Something that 5-10 years ago, we wouldn't even consider this as being some of the major players, but some of the major movements that Microsoft has made and dedication to the platform has been huge. When you look at why you should migrate, I like the fact, like I said, functionality popped up, compliance popped up more than some of the other factors. So when you're looking at a migration pattern, the key is to figure out which features you might want to take advantage of. Now, this doesn't mean you take advantage of every one of these new features right out of the gate. We'll talk about that from a standpoint of how to look at migration opportunities. But if you have specific pain points where something like cloud integration becomes a great way, like to use something like Stretch Database and relieve pressure off your storage system locally in SQL Server 2016 or 2017, that's a big deal. You're running into performance issues and you want to use in-memory, but you don't want to pay the price for that out of Oracle, for instance. And you're like, okay, what comparatively, what does this mean? Well, realistically, in-memory performance on Microsoft is going to be a compelling choice, and it's a standard part of the platform. You're not paying extra for that piece. If you're looking at migrating and you really are uncomfortable migrating your database platforms to the Windows operating system, well, SQL Server runs on Linux as of 2017, and it runs very efficiently and very well on Linux. So when you're looking at your data platforms, that's some of the stuff you're looking at. I'll also talk about, just being, modernizing. You're gonna need to modernize your data platforms. Compliance rules and security gaps, all these things are becoming more and more relevant and problem, and people talk about it all the time. So what are you doing to protect your systems and your data by making sure you're running on the latest platforms, some more secure platforms, whether that's Microsoft, Oracle, or Sybase? You need to be up and running and upgraded and to the latest platforms for security purposes. But it's not just the features on the on-premises solutions that are key. Have you considered moving to the cloud? Even Azure SQL Database. It's a fully functional SQL Server. It's there. Microsoft's continuing to make more and more of the additional server capabilities there. The database functionality is all in. So now we can actually look, they're doing more work around that and providing more capability. The key is that I can scale it up and down by changing settings as opposed to getting new hardware or doing other work that's required. So in that process, I reduce my maintenance and operational costs. When's the last time you really relished the opportunity to patch your entire environment? I know I don't. That's pretty phenomenal to think that Microsoft will take care of that patching. And it has built-in capabilities around HA and DR. If you're struggling to figure out how to get to an HA position with even SQL Server on premises, and you really want to get high availability in, but you don't want to manage your own cluster, perfect opportunity to use Azure SQL Database. Furthermore, when you do that same capability can be extended through to provide DR capabilities as well, moving into multiple Azure data centers if that's what you choose. These are kind of looking at them side by side. This is a migration effort. If you can also look at things like how do I slowly get into things like the cloud, and you can use other features to get you there. But that is a different talk. So let's go to the next one here. Patterns. Everybody wants to know, well, how do you move? What do you look at doing? These are the three key patterns we see people taking advantage of on a regular basis. These three are not completely independent of each other. And depending on what your pattern looks like, you may choose to use one or more of them in your overall life cycle of your migration process. So the most common migration opportunity people see and feel the most comfortable with is lift and shift. But realistically, a lift and shift is all about taking VMs that are hosted somewhere and hosting them somewhere else. It is a low risk opportunity. It's really hard to do, so that's one lift and shift. That pattern will get you into something like the cloud. Lift and shift in an on-premise scenario really is about moving your data from, let's take Oracle to SQL Server. A lift and shift means moving that databases and only doing minimal work to upgrade all the functionality like procedures, packages, and so on. So it's really important to know that that's kind of the minimal effort. It's a really good way to get you moved over there, but it's not. The goal is not to take advantage of any of those new features yet. When we get into optimize, we're really looking at taking advantage of some of those new features. Some of the new things in 2016, including some of the in-memory capabilities have been updated, the ability to do operational reporting off of your operational database, do operational reporting off of that with a combination of in-memory and tables, as well as using cluster column store indexing, those kind of things. Those are key feature sets that Microsoft's bringing to bear to allow you to see performance improvement beyond what you had before. In 2017, they're doing more and more work around AI and the ability to actually automate the tuning process as well. This helps with streamlining management. If you've ever worked with Microsoft tooling and you look at it and you understand what a data management view is, These are some of the greatest things ever. It really helps you understand what's going on in your environment, allowing you to further optimize your solution and do more work. Optimize is really taking advantage of some of the feature sets that are available out of the gate to allow you to, bring more performance and reduce management costs, those kind of things within your product or in your software release. Modernizing. Now we're getting into how do we take advantage of some of the latest and greatest pieces that are there. SQL Server comes with an R server capability and integrated R. You want to integrate analytics in your application, don't really want to invest in a lot of other hardware or something, you can actually take advantage of using some work by integrating R within, for instance, within your platform. You can also do even more work if you choose to use analysis services and some of the other tools that just come along for the ride, and be able to start taking advantage of that tooling within an on-premises solution. You move to the cloud, you get even more capability in that you're able to take advantage of Azure Analysis Services and Power BI, which you can use both. Those are the kind of things you start to really do. Improving your scalability, always-on configuration, the ability to use read-only replicas, in Azure, the ability to distribute your data globally. There's a number of things out there that allows you to improve that scalability and give you the opportunities to grow the database. The other thing to keep in mind is while we talk about SQL 2016 or 2017, you also have the ability to take advantage of high memory volumes and high throughput capabilities depending on the hardware you choose to put it on. So in an optimization standpoint, you may do as part of your optimization technique, for instance, run against a high-end system like a HP Superdome X or something like that to really optimize your capability. SQL Server can take advantage of the resources available on a platform of that scale and give you that maximum throughput possibility in your environment. As we get into some of the things we were learning and lessons learned, one of the things we talk to our customers about is the fact that you can do this yourself, but usually it's not cost effective or time efficient. The reason I call this out is because realistically, you should hopefully not consider migrating a normal practice within your organization. If you're constantly migrating platforms within your organization, you have a different problem. Your team should be very skilled at understanding databases, maintenance, operations, all those things, but they may not be as skilled at how to take advantage of the migration tools that are out there and the time invested in making migrations happen successfully. So the ways that you work to mitigate this risk is you work with tools and partners. We'll talk a little bit more partners later in the conversation, but let's talk about some tools. Let's talk about some of the things that are currently available. What would you use? Discovery and planning. You have the SQL Server Migration Assistant sitting out there. Microsoft's had that tool around for a very long time. It does a very good job of evaluating your current environment and then looking at the amount of manual labor required. It is a tool. It is a discovery tool. It doesn't give you all the answers. It doesn't account for everything. In some very small migrations, you can actually use it for the migration itself. However, it doesn't, it really doesn't scale very well, but it does a great job of discovery. You're able to go in, evaluate what's there, evaluate what won't translate naturally. It'll do some code translation for you, but it also gives you an idea of how much manual effort it thinks will be involved. Typically, when we work with customers on migrations, this is one of the tools we use to help assess how difficult a migration will be. One thing to be aware of is that it's very important when you're looking at a tool like the Migration Assistant to actually look at what's manual. In some cases, you can actually reduce the hours estimate by looking at it. In some cases, you substantially increase it because the assessment tool is doing its best guess. But if you are running, for instance, in an Oracle environment and packages are calling out to Java code sets, well, then you got some work to do. And there's no way that the tool can evaluate how much work that's going into that. But it will identify the issue and help you work through the process of getting there. And that's what we work with customers on a regular basis in our assessments, is to go through that and understand the level of effort that'll be required to migrate, in particular the functionality. Working through the data movement side, I know it sounds kind of funny, but SQL Server Integration Services Import Export Wizard is a wizard. It actually will create packages. Remember, you're doing something for a one-time run. So it does what you need to at a very low cost and is very efficient in doing its work and helps you lay that out. Now you can actually use a number of other tools to move that data, depending how you want to do it. In some cases, we work with Attunity on replication, and what we do there is basically the goal is to do one of two things. One is we can initially move the data once the schema is generated using Attunity to do replication over time, and basically keep the data up to speed so we can do additional testing and work around that. What that means, keep in mind that now we're getting into tools that have costs associated to them. And this is important to understand, but the value of the tool over trying to recreate some of this yourself is substantial. But we recommend that because we want to focus on issues and problems and whatever we can do to get you moved over as fast as possible. Attunity helps us achieve that goal. For cloud migration, we work with a product from Unified Cloud. That allows us to work with you as customers to both identify what it'll take to move you to an Azure SQL database or Azure SQL VMs. I get a good basic understanding what that means. It also helps us actually run a good portion of that migration. So some of the data movement and those kind of things. It's really important to understand that our goal is to help you get on the cloud in that scenario and work with your data and optimize it eventually. So we're looking for opportunities. When we look at cloud migration, we have to consider a number of things. Which data platform is the right one to choose? We use tools like this to help us understand the use case that we're looking at and the tooling and the work that you're doing. So, should you land that data in Azure SQL Database or Azure SQL Data Warehouse, or does it really need to land on a SQL Server VM? Why? You need to not just know that, hey, we recommend go to SQL Database. We need to be able to tell you why that's what we recommend and what it means to you and what the cost implications of doing that, both from a management standpoint and an actual per month cost. What's the difference? What does it work for you? Another tool that we work with and a partner we work with is called Datametry. They actually help us with Teradata migrations. And what it does allows us to migrate a lot of the Teradata data, get you off the expensive platform while not incurring a huge penalty in code rewrite. And this is a key because what we want to do is be able to help you offload that cost, because that's one of the big things around Teradata that people are trying to understand. And then this allows you not to have to change all your reporting and functionality around that. If you want more information on any of these, this is my little ad real quick. Please let us know, because these are products we work with and partners we work with from our products we work with and partners to migrate folks. What I really want you to come away from here is realizing that even though we do migrations on a regular basis, we don't try to custom build each migration. We use a number of tools. This is a list of some of the tools we use. We use a number of tools to help migrate our customers into the SQL Server platforms or Azure. This is really important to understand because the goal is not to spend 6, 10, 12 months building out all this stuff by ourselves, but really to take advantage of these tools to optimize the overall migration process and reduce the amount of pain. Because frankly, migrating the data and all this work here, this is actually some of the easiest pieces of the migration we can do. Why? Because of testing. One piece is hardly ever accounted for within the context of migration is testing. We all know we need it. None of us want to pay for it. We don't want to put it in the plan because it could stretch out any timelines, and who has final say, right? However, we have to treat testing as a different scenario. We need to look at testing as an opportunity to build confidence in our users. Without it, why would they believe us? Without the testing patterns in place, we cannot build that confidence that we've done the right thing and that we're ready to move. Many of us have been a part of projects over the years in our career where we did something we thought was best for the business got into it and said, we don't care, we don't want it, it won't work, and there's no way to build that confidence. So testing is a part of the confidence building portion of this. We need to show and prove to our end users that when we move the data, it moved correctly and stuff works the way it's supposed to. At Pragmatic Works, we talk about full coverage testing. This is really important to understand. A lot of people don't miss the first one, the migration testing. We're all good. We're going to go out and we're going to run our select counts and we're going to run a few of these other things. We're going to do all that stuff and we're going to confirm that, hey, you know what, it works. We can add that into our SSIS packages, or we can do Management Studio scripts, and we can just say, yep, there were 1 million rows in that table in Oracle. There are 1 million rows in that table in SQL Server. Great. Oh, let's check it. Let's see if it adds up. Yep, we got 15,000 unique customers, and we got 15,000 unique customers, and so on. We can run a bunch of that stuff. We've been doing it for years. We do it when we do BI projects. We do it on all these kind of things. But now we're talking about migration. There's more to it than just, did we move it? Was it the right data? We now have to start testing, well, we migrated the packages in Oracle over to procedures in SQL Server. Functionally, do they work? And this is where we talk about the next ring of coverage that we have to do. We work with a product that we've built called Budget Test. It's a data validation software suite. And what it does, it allows us to actually execute procedures on both sides. We talked about Attunity previously as a tool. This is one of the reasons we need Attunity, because it allows us to push data in and then execute procedures on both sides of the equation. And then we can use Legit Test to run that comparison and rerun the test and make sure everything's working as we expected. It's a big deal to make sure that the functions work correctly, the procedures are correct. But that's just, now we know the database is functioning. We actually have to go in and have to look at things like the applications and reporting and these other things. What are you doing for those tools? We got JMeter and LoadRunner possibles, or these tools actually can work with Java-based applications, .NET-based applications, and so on. JMeter is open source, so that means the price is right. For the most part, it's free. LoadRunner is not open source, but it has a lot of capabilities that may be required for you to have a successful regression test in your environment. You can build your own regression testing using some of the Microsoft tooling in Visual Studio. The point is that we are now just getting into a place where we can say the applications function correctly against both platforms. So when I go into my form and it's sending data to the Oracle database, and I go in that same form and it's sending it data to the SQL Server database, that it does the same thing, that it ends up being right and all the data still works. That's all about regression testing. And sad to say, most of our customers don't have regression tests already built. If you do, then we can reuse those tests, repoint them to the new platform, and life is good. If you don't, then part of the process you got to go through is building out regression testing at some level. We've had, what does it mean to be in a regression testing pattern? Do you need 100% coverage? That is a question between you and your business users. Business users will always tell you, or most of the time tell you, yes, we want 100% coverage. What you need to do is give them the build, because frankly, 100% test coverage dwarfs anything you do in other migration costs. It's a huge cost impact, especially as you start to get into that third ring. The final ring that we talk about from a testing in full coverage is really about performance testing. And what we want to do there is we need to do some level of optimization on the platform, and we're actually working to tune that database. We typically use HammerDB because it works against both Oracle. I think it works against Oracle, and I think it works inside. It works as Oracle and SQL Server for sure. Sybase, I believe it works as well. It allows us to do performance testing against those platforms and gives us an opportunity to do uniform testing against both platforms and see what tuning opportunities we have in front of us. Because the indexing that works in Oracle may not be the same indexing that works in SQL Server, and those kind of things, just understanding that, you're getting that basic tuning out of the way. What about those applications and reports? We hinted at them a little bit in regression testing. But realistically, I will tell you that I can move your data, no big deal. I can even update your procedures and functions, still not a big deal. But what about those application reports? So this really is a case-by-case basis depending on the product you're using. Were they custom built? Do you have a data access tier that's separate from the rest of your application? Do your applications use a lot of dynamic or embedded SQL in them? Are they heavily using the store procedure and database functions? How are they being called? Do you use something that, abstractionally or some kind that allows you to make some changes and you can simply ask a question? Or using something like Entity Framework in .NET, which allows for some level of simplicity and reformatting or recompiling that code so it actually points to a different data set. These are all key things to understand. And when we come in to help customers, this is the biggest deterrent to being able to actually successfully migrate. It's also one of the reasons why we see the data warehousing solutions be some of the more likely to migrate solutions, because typically if they're running their reports off procedures, when we change the procedures and functions inside the databases, we are basically changing the connection and recalling those same things, minor changes. If your application doesn't have a data access tier, it's really difficult to deal with the changes that are happening because you can't isolate those changes to the middle piece of your application. The other one to consider is custom build or third party solutions. In some cases, have platforms on both. What's relevant about that is that maybe your migration is less about all this work and migration and getting all these pieces, but more about moving the data from your legacy platform onto a modern platform like SQL Server, and basically going, all right, I'm going to move this. I can just move the data into the new schema that's supported by the vendor, and I can take their guidance as being a way to move that data. A case for that is in the medical field that is possible, like with Epic running against on their data warehousing solution. I think it's Clarify, I think the name. Though that pattern can actually work in that scenario. We've worked with customers in the healthcare field to do that type of move. Because what we focus on is, okay, we have a schema that's accepted and supported 100% by Epic. Now we want to move data into that, so the focus is on that migration and the custom things that were built into their platform that have to be moved over. Minimizes risk substantially, is one of the best ways to move a third party over. So in some cases, third party products also have tools that support the migration process and to help you along. Always be aware if there are any changes in functionality based on the underlying data platform. Typically there aren't, but it does happen on occasion. Pragmatic migrations. So when we talk about how we help customers migrate, really want to be, talk about these 5 keys to successful data platform migration. Have clear goals in mind. Don't migrate for the sake of migrating. Frankly, even if you are a new person in the shop and you come into a place that's all Oracle and you say, you know what, I'd rather be on SQL Server. Well, that's true, but is that a reason? Is that a true goal? Is that really what you want to try to accomplish with this move? The most successful migrations that we've worked with have a goal that is beyond things like cost and what I like. So desire and cost play the least amount. When someone's looking at a platform and they're looking at either a license renewal, which is typically a great opportunity to take advantage of a migration and looking at what's next, you can do that type of pattern. You say, rather than renewing all my licensing on this older platform, I'm really not happy with my relationship with that vendor and I want to switch over to Microsoft. And when I switch, I'm going to be able to be more compliant. I will save some money. And I expect to get certain performance gains based on what we're seeing. That is a key. You need to have those goals. You need to know what it is you really want to do and what you hope to accomplish in your migration. I would love to tell everyone it's time to move off of all those other platforms on Microsoft, but depending on where you are in your agreements and a number of other features, third-party products that don't support SQL Server, they still exist. Those are a lot of things you have to consider when you're making a migration move and what it means. We really work with our customers to do a comprehensive assessment using SSMA and other tools that we can bring to bear. Our goal is to help you understand what will be the complexities, what will the testing patterns look like, what are the tools we plan to use, what's the timeline look like, how ready are your apps? Can they absorb a migration without it being a complete rewrite on your part? There's a lot of things to consider in this scenario. And so one of the things we want to do is always let our customers know what it will take to move. And this usually involves a comprehensive assessment. Using the right approach, we talked about the different types of approaches, the lift and shift versus optimize and modernize. If you're looking at a solution that's old and you're in the process of updating the application as well, that is a perfect time to look at modernizing your underlying data platform. you should take advantage of that opportunity and turn on new capabilities and bring new things to your customers or your business users so that you can show them, hey, we have been thinking about you, and that's why we're moving this way. So matching up that move and is a great way. Lift and shift, just and straight migration. If you're able to do that, go for it. If that makes a lot of sense, it's a great way, especially if you're moving to a cloud scenario, great way to start taking advantage of cloud and then start optimizing and modernizing as you move forward. Considering testing, tooling, and training, which we've talked about and previously already. Without testing, you have no user confidence. You have to build confidence in your users. The only way that can be done is through testing. The tooling needs to be right, because without the tooling, this becomes usually unbearable as far as time and effort. And what we want to do is use the tools to optimize our time and minimize the effort to move, and so we can focus on those things that are actually hard and difficult to do in a migration process. And finally, training. Pragmatic Works is a great training opportunity for you as well to teach your DBAs and your developers about the new platform. How can we help you with that? Which brings me to the last one, the right partner. Choosing the right partner is key. You don't want to just hand the work off and hope it gets done. What you really want to do is partner with someone. We want to partner with you. Usually this is best done with integrated teams as we look at all the opportunities to take advantage of this, because the goal is to have your team fully functional and capable when we're done with the project, so that you don't have to retain us forever. While we like that as a consulting organization, it's really not the most effective for your organization. Our goal is to help you move the data, get operational, get it tested, get it in a good place, and then let you take over from there. And realistically, while we're doing all that stuff, you're already in the process. So we think we're the best partner for this, and we hope you think so too. But this is one of the things to keep in mind, is that having a partner, because remember, if your team are expert data migration folks, this is a problem, because typically speaking, you should be migrating on a regular basis. That's a role that we can do because we migrate from multiple customers. We've seen a lot of these issues pop up in different ways. This is an opportunity to partner with someone who is actively working in migrations. We do have an online resource, Keys to a Successful Data Platform Migration, where these 5 keys come out of with some more detail around them. I encourage you to check it out on our site and pull that down as an additional resource related to the talk today. So why migrate? I wanted to wrap up a little bit here as we get into this. It saves you money and time. Notice how I put it at the end, because it's not the key reason, but at the end of the day, if you're not saving money and time, or saving money or time, chances are it's going to still be a problem for you to justify the migration. Licensing is the first thing. Microsoft licensing is some of the cheapest on the market, and it gives you the ability to optimize both online and on premises. Maintenance and management, as you start to use some of the AI capabilities within the SQL platform for auto tuning and those type of things. Remember, when you're targeting for migrations, target the latest and greatest, because you're not going to upgrade again for a while. That's just the way it works in the database world. So if you're looking to go, well, we wait 2 rows behind, remember, Microsoft's already put this stuff on Azure SQL Database. So if you're going on premises, SQL 2017 isn't a stretch. It's already been tested. It's already been vetted. It's a good product to move to. Is it without flaw? No software is. So, I realize that some of you must think, well, I'm going to wait till the first service pack. Well, when Microsoft releases every year, the first service pack will be the next rep. So just keep in mind, they're changing how they do business anyways. If you need to look at hardware reduction and retirement, those are some of the key things, whether you're, maybe you're going from bare metal installation to virtualized installation. We didn't really talk a lot about that kind of migration. Those are some of the other things you can take advantage of. How do I better optimize my hardware? Can I buy a better system and retire some of the old stuff? At the end of the day, better performance and makes more productive users will let you make more money. As you start looking at what you can do, the more that you can provide to your users is the value add on the back end of this as well. So if you don't see that as a value add, you do have to question whether you should be migrating or not. Because at the end of the day, that's what you want to do. If you can make more efficient users and you have an opportunity to reduce costs or make more money because you can do more business or do business better, those are reasons to migrate that matter. Okay, wrap up. As we get into, as you went through this, understand why you're migrating, know your goals, know why. Know why you are migrating. It's so important to be able to have that story, and that story must be bigger than it's cheaper. Unless you're completely cost conscious, keep in mind ROI on a migration is, you got to work through that. Maybe it saves you $200,000 a year in licensing, but costs you $500,000 to do the migration. Understand that is, you need to have more than just, okay, ROIs in 2.5 years. You need to have a better answer than that. You need to look through and say, well, that's the cost, and here's what we're hoping to do. We're also hoping to increase business overall by 5 to 10% because we'll be more efficient. We should be able to conduct more business, or we'll have less failures, or whatever it is, or we reduce risk because we're more compliant. Those are the kind of things that you have to include in any evaluation of your migrating process. You use a trusted partner. Like I said, this should not be a standard activity of your team. They should not be migration experts, frankly. Can they do a migration? Absolutely. Do you want them to, be 100% dedicated to migration? You will staff some way, shape, or form. Use experts to help you do the job. Testing is so important for user acceptance and user confidence. Make sure you have a plan. Make sure you understand the cost of the plan and the value of the testing. 100% coverage is awesome. However, it may not be valuable. So you need to make sure the testing is of the value you want and the coverage that you need. Migrating the data is easy. Updating the application is hard. So make sure you understand the applications that are impacted. I can move data any day of the week. It's super easy to do at the end of the day. By comparison, application upgrades, much easier. Because data is data. We move data on a regular basis. When we move it to a warehouse or we move it somewhere else, we're just moving data. So plan for your application upgrades, understand what the impact will be, and include that into your overall cost of the solution because you'll need to. And that is what I have today. It's kind of a run through. Like I said, please check out our white paper on this. We have 2 migration white papers out there. One's migrating purely to the cloud. The other one is talking about data platform migration. Choose that appropriately and pick the right one in that scenario. All right, do we get any questions? I know I rattled it all off pretty quick.
All right, Steve, let me go ahead and read some questions here. How do you handle testing your applications on newer versions / patch sets, since that is now happening behind the scenes for you?
I'm assuming they're referring to cloud, in which case that there's a guarantee that Microsoft puts out there that the patches won't break existing code. Since you don't actually know what's happening, typically speaking, it's pretty hard to see that occur. So like in SQL Server, Azure SQL Database, for instance, there was a patch they made 3 years ago, a major revision that did cause some issues. I won't say it's 3 years ago. But since then, we've had little to no impact with them upgrading or doing any patching because it's hidden to us from the OS and so on.
Okay, I don't have any more questions listed here, so I'll go ahead and wrap up. Thank you so much, Steve, for presenting today, and thank you. Oh, I'm getting more questions now. Someone is asking where they can get the white papers.
I'm gonna leave that one to you, Erica, because they're online somewhere. I think it's in our white paper section on the site. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I can probably include the link to that in the follow-up email. So be on the lookout for that. We do record all of our sessions, and we'll be sending you all a follow-up email that includes a link to that recording. I can include a link to the white paper as well. And you can also find a recording on our website at pragmaticworks.com. So thank you all for your time, and we look forward to seeing you all next Tuesday for another free training session. And we hope you guys have a happy Thanksgiving this week. All right, thanks, Steve.
Not a problem. Thanks everyone for joining us.